Hi all, Huda here, a games dev tutor at ACM. So today's episode will be about for loops, so let's level up. Right, so you know when you're coding and you want to make something happen, you implement a command. So you tell the computer to do this, and then you define what this is really. But imagine you want to do something repetitively, so you want to create, I don't know, 45 enemies or something. I mean, there is a way of there are many ways, but you can always repeat your code. So you're telling it, do this, and then you repeat it with do this, and then do this, and then do this, and then do this, do this, do this. You get the idea. It becomes really tedious. It's not productive nor effective, and it's not fun at all. Now, of course, there is a better, less annoying way of doing this. And the most common way, of course, is loops. So a loop is a block of code that can repeat itself, that you can rerun. And there are different types of loops. You have for loops, you have for each, you have while loops and do while loops, and essentially they're doing the same thing. They're looping over a group of code. And I don't know if you've watched the After School Club, is that what it's called? ACM After School Club? Yes, those coding sessions. If you've watched them, you'll know a thing or two about the scopes in code. And it's when you're using those curly brackets, those they're like squiggly curly brackets. These, when you're using them, you're creating a scope, which means that all the code within them belong to each other, and they are a group and can access kind of the life of the program within kind of this area, this scope. So they're a group of commands that understand each other. They understand the context within the scope because they have access to this limited environment. And this is very handy because what we want to do, it's exactly what we want to do. We want to create this group of commands, and we want to rerun it, and we want it to understand, the different commands. You'll see in a moment. So, and that's how for loops work, and that's how any loop work. But we'll focus today on for loops. So let's jump right into the code and the projects that I'll be showing today. All right, so here's a brand new Unity project. So, it has nothing on it except for the main camera, here it is, and the directional light, which is, the overall lighting. And, that's it. So imagine we want to create a cube. Usually you'd go here, game objects, 3D object, and then click cube, right? And this will be created outside the game. I mean, the game is not even running, and we have everything set up. Okay. Imagine. Well, let's not imagine. Let's actually do it. Let's run it, and that's what you see is what you get, really. So you have the cube here, wherever you placed it in the editor, right? Now let's remove this cube and create it in code. So let's go to our scripts folder. Oh yeah, I just created a scripts folder, but right click in it, create, and then create C# script. And let's call it create object or objects. Once you've created the script, you can preview it in the inspector. Everything is correct. So double click it and open up your, I don't know, for me it's Visual Studio, but whatever, whichever code editor you prefer. All right. So here's the auto-generated code. All right. Let's see. Now, let's try with creating one cube. And you do this by simply saying GameObject.create primitive, and then you have to specify. So those objects, game objects that we saw earlier, the cube and the sphere and whatnot, these are called primitives in Unity. So that's essentially what we're creating. We have to specify the type of the primitive. So you say primitive type dot, and there they are. There they are. Let's take cube, and with semicolon, save, and then let's get back to the project. It's loading, and if we play it now, nothing's going to happen because the C# script, the script has not been assigned to anything in the scene, so it has to be attached somewhere. Let's attach it to the main camera. So this is bad practice, but because we're not doing best practices overall, we're just going to create a cube for now. Let's just do it that way. So we've attached it, dragged and dropped, and played, and there's our cube. It's going to be created on, let's see, click on the cube, 0, 0, 0, all right? So at the source position, and that's how easy it is to create a cube. Now, we promised 4 loops, so let's go back to our code, and let's say we want to create, I don't know, 10 cubes, okay? So the way we use a for loop is we write for, and then we have to specify an int, which stands for integer, so we want to count up the number. We give it a name, so we're creating a variable, an int variable called I. We can't create it. I mean, we can call it anything we want, really. We can call it, I don't know, cat or number or whatever. But I'll call it I as per tradition, let's say. So that's the first condition. Int I, our integer variable, starts with 0. And then the next condition is that it goes up to, it cannot be cannot be more than 10. Actually, it cannot be 10 or more, because we're doing less than here. And the reason for that is if we want to create 10 and we start with 0, then we have to count in 0, right? So 0 is already like the first one. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there you go. You have 10 cubes. So less than 10, and then I plus plus. And essentially what that means, or how that is read, is when the integer I is 0, and as long as it's less than 10, increase it by 1 for every round. Okay? So let's put it here instead, or reformat it. And that's it. That's how you create a for loop. So let's save and go back to the project, play. There you go. Now, in the editor or in the game scene, you'll see just 1 cube. But if you look at the hierarchy, you'll see there are 10 cubes in here because they are all in the same spot, the same exact spot. If you, oops, I'll just mark one of them. If you drag it away from the rest, you'll see that there are indeed 10 of them there. So let's stop that, go back to the code, and let's put some, let's put some space between them. So the way we do it is if you hover above create primitive, this function, you'll get some more information, right? And you see here that this function will return a game object. So it will actually reference, it will actually give you something to reference. Now we don't reference it here because we don't need it, or we didn't need it, but right now, this time around, we will need it by writing game object, let's say GO for game object. So we're catching that reference, we're naming it. Oh, that's wrong because it's supposed to be a big O, like that capital. So we're naming it Go as in like game object or whatever we want to name it. And we want a reference to that so that we can go to the transform.position, and we want to change that. And the way we want to change it is we can't go to, for instance, we can't write x equals something new because it's read-only in Unity like this way. What we want to do is we create a whole new vector. So whole new vector where we say I, so x, y, z, right? So I is going to change based on, the step in the for loop we're in. So the first I is going to be 0, right? It's not going to move anywhere. And then 0, and then 0 again. So we don't want to move it in any other axis. Now let's go back to the project, save, go back to the project and play. There we go. So let's see. It looks like one long row, but they are all there. And it's because, there is no spacing. There should be more spacing really between them. So let's increase that a bit. Yeah, I'm still not very happy. Let's go back to the code. Let's put I times 2. Okay, and what that essentially means is that double this space, and I is going to be 0 from the start, so it's not going to move anywhere. And let's go back. Save. Did I save? Yeah, I did. I'm so second nature, I don't even realize when I save. Right, so save and then play in the editor, and now we have that spacing. There we go. There's our 10 cubes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and our 10 cubes as promised. And from here, sky's the limit, right? You can change this to 10. You can change it to, you put a variable. For instance, you want a variable to be, let's say, integer. Yeah, max cubes, for instance, right? And then you say here, change 10 to max cubes. And in here, and you save, go back to the project, right? Stop this. Now you see here the variable max cubes is 0. Let's put it, I don't know, 25. I mean, you can do anything now. Play. And there you go. You'll have 25 cubes now in a row. So it's really, nice and simple and easy, and is reusable. So I hope you have fun with it. I hope you've learned something new. Thank you for watching. See you next time.